Some excerpts from our conversation with Rajesh Singh, the Secretary of the Department of Promotion of Industry and Trade. Speaking to Shereen, the DPIIT Secretary gave his views on the lower FDI inflows last year and the promise that India holds as an investment destination. Listen in.
If you see it as a percentage of our GDP, you'll find that in 2014, we were at about 2.6% of the GDP. In the next 5 years, it became about 3.5%. Now, it is close to 4%. There is a slight dip in the current year, which we feel is due to a combination of geopolitical factors, hardening of interest rates abroad, due to the sticky inflation conditions in some of the developed countries. So there is a slight dip this year. The dip is far less in India as compared to many of the other competing destinations. But from the Government of India's point of view, the real issue is that in terms of overall FDI flows, we are 8th in the world. We should be going up. Most of the 7 who are ahead of us are developed countries, but there are 1 or 2 developing countries in that list. Our intention is to sort of really move up there, because this is the time when the world is looking at India. By all accounts, we provide a fairly sort of clear case for investment in terms of the both the policy stability and continuity, as well as the political stability and the macroeconomic numbers that India has. So it's a compelling case for FDI, and we are very confident that the trend I mentioned of an increasing portion of our GDP coming in as FDI will continue.
All right. Shereen also asked about the DPIIT Secretary about the recent news regarding Paytm Payments Bank and the efforts taken by the government in order to really ensure that startups comply with law. So listen in to what he had to say on that as well.
You said that the effort on the part of the government or the regulator is not to penalize, but in this case specifically, the regulator said enough and more opportunities were given for compliance, and the action was taken because there was perpetual non-compliance. So what was the feedback that you got? I mean, is it because of the complexity of the kind of rules that are in place that fintechs seem to find it challenging to comply, or is it a lack of understanding, or is it a lack of appreciation of what the regulator expects in terms of good compliance?
So, I mean, when it comes to startups, of course, these are people who often move very fast, whose business has expanded suddenly, and sometimes the compliance portion of it is perhaps not taken as seriously in some cases. The specific case that you mentioned, I don't want to spend time on that so much, because I really don't know the details of that particular issue, but I understand that they were given adequate opportunities. The general sort of impression that we got from the fintech companies who attended that meeting was that they would like to understand the regulations better, which of course we created a mechanism for that purpose on the spot by the Honorable Finance Minister for a monthly meeting to update them and sensitize them about regulations.
All right, that is the view on Paytm, saying that they were given enough time to really comply and that this decision is also for other startups. But moving on now, there is more from this interview. He also spoke to Shereen about reduction in tariffs for companies like Tesla, like VinFast, who are really looking to come into India and then set up shop. Listen in.
Demand from a lot of the global manufacturers, or in particular one global manufacturer, is that, look, don't mandate to start with domestic manufacturing, bring down tariffs, let us import at a lower duty, and then get demand visibility before we actually set up domestic manufacturing. What's the DPIIT view on this?
Actually, it's not a single manufacturer anymore. Now there are 2 of them, and I won't mention who those 2 are, but yeah.
We know one.
Yeah, so you can try and guess the other one. So, as I said, there are a couple of requests on those lines. It's a very contested sort of policy space, because we have a strong domestic automobile sector, which also has investment plans in this area. So I would only say at this stage that government has not taken a final view on this as to how to do it, how to sort of, do this trade-off which will have some disruptive impact, but which also has some, there are benefits and costs in going down that route, and government really hasn't taken a final call on this as yet.
All right, those are some interesting excerpts from the conversation with the DPIIT Secretary. The market